All right. Well, there's close games, and then there's games that are blowouts, and then there's whatever we saw at Autzen Stadium today, man. Ducks close out Oklahoma State 69-3. Worst loss for the Cowboys. I think in program history, biggest win for the Ducks over a Power 4, Power 5 team. And this feels like, John, everything you want to see from an Oregon team that came out and struggled last year and really hasn't looked anything like that team this year. You were at the game. Well, what's your immediate takeaway here?
Yeah, that was the feeling in the press box. Was everyone was just like, obviously they knew there was a talent level mismatch on the field, and it was talked about in terms of the money that went into each of these teams. But yeah, that was not what anybody expected. That was just it was BTA, like belt to ass. Like it was an ultimate just like whooping of a team that, is on a regression right now, but is still Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy. That's a team that doesn't give up 69 points to other power conference. You don't do that to power conference opponents normally. That's it. It looked a lot closer to what Oregon did to Portland State a couple years ago, or what they did to Montana State last week, than even other games they've blown out. The teams they were blowing out last year within the Big Ten, like Purdue and UCLA or whoever. It was not this level of just dominance on like across the board, and it felt personal too. Like they played the like clip of Gundy talking about how he didn't think Autzen would affect his quarterback floors this week before the game, and Autzen's crowd was getting hyped at that, and then I think it was 5 or 6 false start penalties on Oklahoma State, and like you could feel the crowd was taking it personal. Dante Moore said in the post game that Dan was on the sideline being like, "Yeah, we're not taking our foot off their neck. We're like going to keep." He said they're trying to break the scoreboard. That's what Dante Moore said that Dan Lanning said to them. They're trying to break the scoreboard. Just it felt like Gundy's comments about the money in the NIL and being at a disadvantage. Dante said that they took a shot at one of their people in and of itself. It felt like Oklahoma State took a shot at Dan and what his program is, and his team kind of wanted to step up and back him up, and they did that to the fullest extent. Yeah, like you said, the biggest win in program history against another Power 4 team for Oregon. That's not like this is just another level of dominance that we really haven't seen since some of what Bo Nix was doing 2 years ago. But Oregon last year, I think they put up 41 2 times. They put up 40 on Oregon State, and then they put up 40 in that Penn State game. But they were not putting up these 46, like 50, 60-point games. 59 last week, 69 this week. This offense is something else. It looks like the playmakers all across the board, and the defense is. It's got to be a top 3 to 5 unit in the country. You just look at the depth of it, and you saw it again this week. When I go back and watch stuff later this week, it'll be interesting to see how it breaks down, because again, I don't know if we really learned that much because you got through so many guys out there on the field. But yeah, this defense looks so legit and so fast. It felt like Flores never had a chance in the pocket. It was constantly collapsing around him, and then every time he did try to throw, Oregon's defensive backs were just right there, just like smothering receivers. This just looked like programs that really weren't on the same levels, and one of them clearly is invested in winning at the top level of college football right now.
Yeah, and I mean, the question that we'll go through, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is how much you can take away from these games. Because on one hand, you want to say, hey, these are probably not bowl level teams this year. Certainly Montana State, and then at least from what we've seen, Oklahoma State. But also you have to say that Oregon looks like a supremely talented team. There aren't that many teams in the country who look better than these Ducks. So really, how high? I got to put together my top 25 tonight. How high can I put the Ducks? I think they're in my top 3. We're gonna take you through the box score here really quick. Dante Moore, who is fine by the way, he talked to post game.
Yeah, Dante Moore did just fine.
Confirmed. Took a shot. Got rolled up on by a lineman, kind of hit his head. Had a towel over his face on the sideline there for a minute. It was scary for Oregon fans, but it sounds like he's okay. Just we
didn't even see that one up in the. Nobody saw that up in the.
Oh no, yeah, he was down, had the towel over his head and like hands over his face.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he came right back out to start that second half, so
he's
doing
in the second half.
Right. Yeah,
he goes 16-21, 266 yards, 12.7 for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Luke Moga comes in, goes 2 of 3, 53 yards, and Brock Thomas over one. Noah Whittington, with that 59-yard run, goes 4 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown.
I was saying to Matt after the game, he's got between that 59-yarder to start this one and the 35-yarder to start the last game. He's got 95 yards on 2 carries, so like 95 of his like 150 on the year, 160 on the year, coming off 2 plays.
Unbelievable. And we'll talk more about the running backs too. We'll get into them, but 7 guys got carries in this game. Jaden Lamar also had a touchdown. Corey Moore gets a rushing touchdown. D.R. Hill has an unbelievable that dude's speed is just off the charts. But it certainly seems like Noah Whittington is RB1 in this game. Mekhi Hughes was once again kind of on the outskirts. Didn't see him get touches until the second quarter. And then Decorian Moore just flashed some unbelievable speed. Jeremiah McClellan actually leads all receivers with 76 yards. Both those guys had 2 receptions. But yeah, Moore with a touchdown, rushing and receiving. One of only a couple players in Oregon history to do that. Malik Benson gets one. Gary Bryant gets one. Just a fantastic game for these Ducks. I mean, we're talking about where to start. We'll start with where you really focused on in this game. Yeah, last week Dante Moore was maybe a little bit constrained. He was the point guard that we've talked about. He really did a great job running this Will Stein offense, but it really felt like he wasn't unleashed, I think was the word you used. He was unleashed this week. You got to see that arm talent we've talked about. Which just break it down for me.
Yeah, Lanning said that there were some times last week where they had those shots dialed up and they weren't necessarily there, and they kind of didn't really feel like they needed to, once they knew what was happening last week, they didn't really need to get to any of those later in that game. But yeah, from the beginning of the game, I mean, we didn't even get to see what they had cooking for that first drive because Noah breaks a counter run for 60 yards and is instantly through the line and into the secondary and scoring a touchdown. But yeah, the next play they come back out. I thought it was really interesting to talk to Dante about it after the game because he said that wasn't a designed rollout. It looked to me, I definitely thought it was a designed rollout, but he saw the blitz coming, talked to Noah, checked him like on the protection. Huge block from Whittington there. Like
I love that Noah, by the way, told him that he was going to take a shot for him in this.
Yeah, exactly. He knew, and Noah does. He gets in there, hits the linebacker. Dante gets out, rolls out to his left, and that's a throw that. He's moving to his left, he gets under his feet under him and plants and stuff, but he's moving to his left, like moving the wrong way. And then it's 45 yards on the money through the air. It's a crisp route from Decorian Moore on the double move. And yeah, it was go time from there. And Dante Moore continued to do exactly what he needs to do and hit, he was hitting those little shots, hitting the, letting his guys run after the catch. Like a lot of those big passes were Kenyon Sadiq running for 25 yards after the catch on a screen, or Gary Bryant on that flea flicker reverse throw out screen with all the whole offensive line out in front of him. Those are all yards after the catch for Dante Moore. And then when you need to, things do open up, and you clearly have the quarterback that can take those shots. The throw to Malik Benson, like I was up there in the press box and I'm watching it, and I could see it. I was like, Benson's wide open. I could see it developing as they were trying to rotate guys, and Benson, and then Moore hits the back of his drop and launches it perfect on the money. And I was like right on the money. Benson's like hands are outstretched, makes the perfect hands catch. He looked like he continues to look comfortable back there, but then it was starting to see that aggression and some of that arm talent that, yeah, this guy was a consensus top 5 quarterback, not top 5 quarterback, top 5 player in the country a couple of years ago. There was a reason there was a lot of excitement around him when he was originally committed to Oregon. And then when a lot of disappointment when he flipped to UCLA and what he did there. But it, again, just goes back to the maturity of this young man. Like he knew that he wasn't ready yet. He kind of felt that at UCLA, took that year, really learned in this offense, and clearly it's paid off now because he looks so comfortable back there. He able to diagnose things, make checks at the line of scrimmage where he needs to, and then reading out his receivers and being able to take some of those deep shots. This offense looks scary at this point. It's for a team that there was a lot of question marks coming into the season at receiver, and Dan even joked about it a little bit in the post game. It wasn't that we had questions about who you had. We just knew that Dan, we just knew that Evan Stewart was going to be out there, and that's a proven guy. These guys are talented, but they haven't done it on the field yet. They're all doing it on the field right now. Malik Benson looks like a scary deep threat, and Decorian Moore is. I compared him to Tez Johnson, and just the way he moves out there, the like kind of changing speed changing directions at top speed. Decorian Moore is special, and it showed like 3 touches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. That guy's going to be doing just fine throughout his career. He's going to be on all of the leaderboards by the end of his time here. So this offense looks. I mean, I haven't gotten to watch through everything today. I know Ohio State put up 60 on Grambling, but that was Grambling. It's
70.
not. Yeah, but okay. So they did get to 70. Last I saw they were at 66, and Oregon was at 69. But that's against Grambling, and Oregon's doing this on Oklahoma State. So it's hard to argue that anybody has a more explosive offense in the country right now.
Yeah, when we talk about this Dante Moore, just the situation, the decision he makes, it makes me go back to the Kevin O'Connell quote, which I'm sure you've heard, that organizations, he's talking about pro organizations, but organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And just when I think of, all the young quarterbacks that, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of freshman guys to come in and produce. And, I'm watching Bryce Underwood going to Norman tonight and struggle. And he looks like a true freshman, and people are saying he's not good. And I'm like, man, you got to give him the time.
It's an 18-year-old kid. It's hard to play quarterback at that level when, quarterback is such a hard position. It takes so much, beyond, we know Bryce Underwood's arm is really good, just like we knew Dante Moore's arm was really good, but it's taking that time to find that comfort level at the college level when the guys are coming at you faster. These defenses are faster. You just got to be able to read things out and understand the game up here before you can let that arm rip. And that's what Dante Moore did in that year last year, it looks like.
Exactly. And he not only succeeded with this organization, but this organization gave him that time. You're willing to bring a guy in and understand that he's going to sit and bet on him, honestly, because this was a decision of mutual trust. And it seems that at least, now 2-0 through 2 games, it couldn't have worked out better for these Ducks. I want to talk a little bit more about some of these explosives. Because, when we go back to last week and the Will Stein offense in general, you love the explosive plays, the blur shots, but you feel like a lot of the time it's built on short gains. Today, the explosives were what fueled this Ducks game. You get Noah Whittington really early. You get that Takorian Moore. You get explosives just all across. And we'll start with Noah Whittington. This guy's RB1, and he looks exactly like he did pre-injury. Mekhi Hughes is wherever Mekhi Hughes is, but Noah Whittington is RB1 in Eugene.
Yeah, we can get to Hughes a little bit later. It seems like he just might be down on this depth chart at this point, but yeah, Noah Whittington is one. I mean, it helps too. He's 23, 24 years old playing against these college kids because he is a 6-year senior. You're getting to the point where you don't have as many of those in college football anymore. So I feel like those guys that you do have are just kind of an asset because you trust him so much out there. And then now he is, it's the year after with that injury. It's getting that time back to not only does his knee work, but his knee works and he trusts it to work every time, where he can hit cuts and explode in the ways that he used to before that injury. Noah's a guy who doesn't give a ton of answers always when we do get him in those media events. So I'd be interested to talk to him and just how he feels in terms of that, where his knee is at and coming back from that injury a couple of years ago. But yeah, he looked ridiculously explosive, and it's all goes back to what Stein does in the offense. He dials up, fakes a motion going one way, you got a counter run going the other way. Whittington slips a couple guys, and he's gone from there. And then Jaden Lamar getting out on an explosive game, and then like you said, Jeremiah McClellan. I'd even forgot that he had like a 50-yard catch later in the game from Luke Moga. You got guys all over the field who are just making plays, and it turned the game into a track race really quick. And that's the game that Oregon wants to play, and that was clearly not what Oklahoma State was prepared to do today. So that first touchdown came within the first 40 seconds of the game, and then that second one came one play later on offense. This game quickly looked like it was getting out of hand, and that's due to the explosiveness of what this offense can do. Just you picking up yards, and like even on the ones they don't score on, all of a sudden you go from on your own 25 to your opponent's 25 on one play. It's just game changing.
Yeah, I see somebody in the comments here saying Sadiq was playing defense on offense, and some of the blocking that Kenyon Sadiq does, he's getting a little bit more love for it now, but I feel like when people see the highlights of Kenyon Sadiq, they see the hurdles, they see just the unbelievable athleticism that this guy has. But if you look at that Noah Whittington touchdown, it's Sadiq who gets inserted into that gap and makes the crucial block. And that wasn't the only one. You see him pancaking guys. It's him and it's the receivers. They just seem like they take just unbelievable pleasure in blocking guys downfield. It looks like some of those NFL offenses where you see they stay in 11 personnel because they trust guys. I'm thinking of Sean McVay offenses, especially where they trust guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua to go block. downfield. It feels a little bit like that just because not stylistically necessarily, but just because of what the wide receivers do in this offense, how much excitement they have when they get to go block a guy. Is that just what this team is now?
It seems like it. I think it's the program that Dan has built, but it's also a testament, to Drew Maringer and Ross Douglas, the wide receivers and tight ends coach and the wide receivers coach for this team, and that it seems like they've instilled like, hey, if you're not going to block, you're not going to see the field, and so all these guys are out here full like Decorian Moore, and we saw the highlights last week from him on the blocks, but every play he's downfield helping out his teammates. Gary Bryant's doing it, Justice Lowe is doing it. Everybody, and it's the young guys too. It seems to have been instilled from those veterans to those young guys like Decorian Moore. Hey, you got to block to. Everybody's to do their part, and receivers, they're not afraid to step to anybody. And Bryce Betcher talked about that too in the post game. Him and Jerry Mixon as linebackers were like, yeah, so these receivers will like come to us and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit you today, I'm gonna block you today, and they're like, all right, good luck, buddy. I'm still like 240 pounds, but yeah, these guys they come ready to be physical and just play football with a level of physicality that not a lot of teams meet in college football, especially from their skill position guys. And then, like you said with Sadiq, I reposted a cut up of him, his blocking from last week, just because it is just really high level stuff. He's very physical, he's very strong, and it's stuff that is gonna push him, I think, into a first round conversation, even on days like today. What did he? I'm trying to where is he on this stat line? I don't even. He had 2 catches, 40 yards. Like, it's not even like he's putting up crazy numbers, but like, you see the athleticism that will translate. It's legitimate athleticism that's going to translate at the next level, and high level effort that every single coach is going to love. Like you would see from a guy like George Kittle, those top tight ends in the NFL who are willing to block. And yeah, it was Sadiq clearing out the way for Whittington. It was him clearing out the way for Hill. Those won't go down on the stat sheet for him, but those touchdowns are just as much because he's making an effort there as a blocker.
And believe me, NFL scouts see that stuff. That's what they're looking at when that's what moves Sadiq, like we're talking about, from a second round conversation. This guy's an unbelievable skill player. He's a power slot, and this is a guy that we can justify taking a first round pickup. And we talked about this a little bit already, but before we go to break, I want to talk about where this leaves Oregon nationally, because Montana State, Oklahoma State so far don't seem like teams that are, sparkling wins on the Ducks schedule. These aren't wins that you can point to and say that makes us a playoff caliber team just on the strength of the team you beat. But the manner in which they're beating them, how strong these Ducks look, it makes you wonder, can these Ducks, are these Ducks like a top 3, a top 2 team in the country, even though they haven't played and they don't have a quality win yet? Where do these Ducks sit?
Yeah, there's one AP voter that's put the Ducks number 1 in the last 2 weeks, and I think that guy will firmly have Oregon as his number 1 team again, whoever that is. Oregon is one of a few teams that getting those votes for the number 1 team in the country. I suspect it will be more than 1 this week, just with how they looked. I mean, obviously, I don't think people are going to come off of Ohio State or whoever necessarily, but I think Oregon is firmly looking like a top 5 team in the country. Just a level of explosiveness, physicality on defense that you're not seeing from many other teams around the country. And you do see it from those top teams like Ohio State, Penn State, but that's why they're the best teams in the country. And the top of the Big Ten this year looks like an absolute, like, it's going to be hell to get through. It looks like between whoever meets up in the Big Ten championship, and there will likely be some rematches in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And I want to get into a little bit of the sound from today. There was a couple really quotes that popped for me. I was texting Jack Lazarus. I'm like, this has to make it into our recap. This has to make it into our game day. And maybe let's start with what Dan said in response to the Mike Gundy comment. I'm sure you have it better than I do. What'd you take away from that?
Yeah, his response, he kind of just was like, Gundy's probably in his post game saying like, yeah, they did have more, more. They were spending more than us, and
I told you
it looked like it on the field there. I think Dan was very happy with what happened. He gave a little smile given his answers when people would ask about that Gundy stuff. So this was what he was looking to do today. And like Dante said, he said foot on the neck, we're trying to break the scoreboard. And you could tell from the way that the team was playing. After that Colorado game, they've been a little more careful with who they let into those locker rooms for Dan's pregame speeches because of how that clip went a little viral and stuff. But I'm sure it was a similar type of speech for Dan to these guys before they ran out there to start this game. Just we are not going to let them disrespect us like that, and we are on another level, and we are spending like we're on another level to like win on another level. So Oregon is he said he's grateful for what this program does and that they are committed to winning, and it's clearly true because they are committed to winning at the highest level, and it looks like it's going to continue to happen as long as Stan Lanning is in Eugene.
Yeah, hey, maybe one of the very few negatives from today. What was it's hard to get fewer penalties than the Ducks did against Montana State in week 1. I think it was three penalties that week.
Yeah.
But it's 6 or so this week, and a lot of pre-snap penalties. 5 in the first half. They cut it down to just 1, which is something that Dan Lanning mentioned he was happy with, relatively. Not happy with the penalties, but happy with the reduction. And it felt like there was a lot of things that were similar. A lot of, hey, not everybody was set before the snap. A lot of just execution stuff. Is that just something that's early in the season here? You just got to figure it out. Is it something we should really be worried about?
No,
obviously it didn't hurt him in this game, but further down the road.
Like you said, that's just like execution stuff, getting everybody set before the snap. Dante's just got to be patient there and make sure he double checks and looks around to make sure his guys are all set before he does take that snap. That one came up a couple times for them. That's the execution, getting the feel down. That'll work itself out throughout the rest of the season because that's not anybody making a mental mistake necessarily. That's just hey, we didn't do this properly. Next time we'll do it properly, and get the ball snapped when everyone's lined up, the way they're supposed to be.
But it feels okay, and it's not like it. I just think about like, hey, this, you're in a pretty calm environment right now. Northwestern isn't going to be anything crazy. You're going to go to Penn State in a couple of weeks, where it's going to be, the bar for execution is a lot higher, and the margin for error is a lot lower, just because it's going to be so loud and so hostile. They've got 2 or 3 weeks to figure that out. We're pretty confident they should be good there.
What, when they head to Penn State?
When they head to Penn State.
Yeah, you know that environment is gonna be nuts, but I'm sure they'll be. I mean, it's gonna be a slight test at Northwestern, but not really a test in the way you would expect because Northwestern isn't playing in their real stadium yet. Still, I think they're still playing on the lake.
They're still on the lake.
So they're playing in like a 7,000 seat stadium or whatever it is. So it's not going to be a Penn State environment when that's 100,000, but they'll have like the noise pumped in at Autzen, I'm sure, throughout practice and everything leading up to that, and do all the things they need to prepare to face what the crowd is going to be at that whiteout game.
All right. Well, we're going to jump to a break real quick. When we come back, we'll start looking forward to Northwestern, to Penn State, to what these Ducks need to really focus on, to start chasing national championship. We'll see you in just a minute.